Welcome, everyone. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Our first item tonight is the approval of the minutes, the March 31st, 2014 work session meeting.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. And we have an announcement from Ms. Bonanno.
Are they going to do a presentation to the Friends of Canachet? Do you have a presentation this evening, Rosemary? So you want to do the presentation. We wanted to thank you on behalf of the town, but I'd love to see the presentation first. Okay.
We appreciate your thinking of us tonight, and as part of the presentation, we just wanted to show a video that's been produced of the site.
Could we begin that again?
I shall beat the non-believer and his bragging crimes.
We've moved 5,000 pounds of invasive material. We've spent almost $6,000 now on this project. And it's because of our donors. You know, our donors have been generous, and they have allowed us to take on projects like this. And this is a long-term project, so it's something that we'll be doing for at least 3 years, because that's how long we have permission from CRMC to get this one section looking the way it should look as a native habitat. And then we go on to the next section up there.
Under the town's the master plan for Canachet Pond, which the town is finalizing now, there are plans to make this whole section, starting at this point and going north along Boston Road, a linear pond adjacent to Lake Canachet and another body of water, which is a Little Neck Pond further north. So we see this as a preliminary step, getting rid of the invasive species before coming in and improving the land as a park and a walkway. And we're very hopeful.
It'll be a beautiful linear park. The wires will be down, the telephone poles will be down, there'll be underground wiring, and we'll get a chance to look at the beautiful vista of Lake Canachet, and there'll be native plants growing up around the edge, and people strolling and just or running, whatever they want to do around the area, and just enjoying the beautiful area that's here across from Narragansett Beach.
So I just wanted to say, you know, Saturdays I go to the gym, and I've seen the group of Friends of Canachet. They're out there working, and I stopped actually a couple of weeks ago to see what they were up to and have a cup of coffee, and I just wanted to say something on behalf of the Narragansett Town Council. So I just have a little something to read, Tom, and then you can speak. So the Narragansett Town Council would like to recognize and thank the Friends of Canachet Farm and here in Narragansett. They have undertaken the habitat restoration project around Lake Canachet. The goal of this group is to remove the invasive species that have spread into and around the area of the farmland. They presently have over 100 volunteers. Their committed volunteers are comprised of residents, visitors, and even have formed partnerships with the university master gardeners. We appreciate all the volunteers for their continuous commitment to the land in the town of Narragansett, and we want them to know that we greatly appreciate all their hard work. So thank you, Friends of Canachet. Did you want to say something, Tom?
I'd like to thank you for recognizing the work that these volunteers have done. Volunteers on every level. At this point, there are volunteers who do the organization and have spent now more than 7 years working on creating and maintaining this organization. They themselves spend hundreds of hours a month. Individually, some of them spend hundreds of hours of months, exactly. We also have this particular project, among 17 projects that we have, I believe. This is one which gives you a public exposure of some sort, and people can see it and appreciate it. We have had 47 days worth of work involved here over the course of 2 years. We are in our 3rd year now, and are still doing this project, and will continue to do it until we get on top of it. And we're now expanding our activities to the north, to the lake north of Canachet Lake, which is called Little Neck Pond. And that is equally as invaded, you might say, and we hope to restore it to a natural environment. We have had, in these 47 days, we've had a total of over 115 individual different volunteers work. And if we look at the total hours that they've worked, they've put in over 2,000 hours, accumulated 2,000 hours over 2 years worth of work. This is a considerable amount of community effort, and we really think that your appreciation of this will give us a boost, and we will even have more volunteer effort. I wanted to let the public know that we are active every week now. It's either a Friday or a Saturday. We start in the morning at 9 o'clock, and we have all the tools necessary. In fact, we even have gloves if people don't bring their own. And we provide refreshments at the end of or during the course of the volunteer day, and you can come for 1 hour, you can come for all 4 hours. Usually closed down by providing people with pizza at the end so that they can stay and talk. And it's quite a social occasion. People have really learned new friends and things. This is a wonderful activity, and everybody feels positive about our accomplishments, and the more people we have, the more positive the accomplishments are, in fact. So thank you very much for letting us come in the public eye this way, and I appreciate your appreciation. And on behalf of all the volunteers, I say thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to the open forum. Please just state your name and address. Mr. Vengermish.
Hi, Richard Vanquish, who has a new topic tonight. 30 years ago, when I had vim, vigor, and vitality, I actually once had a nice voice as well, I joined a small group of underdogs to fight Ira Magaziner's Greenhouse Compact. Studio 38 is mere child's play to the horrors if the Greenhouse Compact won. It lost 80 to 20. That was my last venture into the state. I'm starting a new one tonight. The legalization of marijuana for recreational use is even worse than the Greenhouse Compact. We must all arise, all good and clear-thinking people, to defeat this bill supported by liberals and by libertarians. Rather a strange mix indeed. How can we bemoan all the losses we've had this year on heroin overdoses and encourage people to use marijuana? Truly amazes me. The vastly overpriced state price, as is in Colorado, for marijuana will lead to an even bigger black market than there is now, so crime will not go away. And remember, the weed of crime bears bitter fruit. The shadow knows. Let me make a personal plea. I'm a recovering asthmatic. One person smoking a weed within 100 feet of me causes me a serious asthma attack. My illness can handle the secondhand cigarette smoke, cigar smoke, and pipe smoke, but cannot handle the stench and the cutting and searing of this weed. We know Governor Chafee can't wait to sign this legislation. This is MBGO to him. Management by goofing off. We must demand a no vote from every one of our legislatures. The good and clear-thinking people of Rhode Island must stop this sickness now. Weed out those in the House and Senate who want weed in.
Thank you. Ms. Smith. Oh, yeah.
Members of the Town Council, I followed with dismay the televised proceedings of the Town Council on the vote on April 7th on the Gazebo Park plan. It was clear that the town of Narragansett had a need to beautify Gazebo Park and the area surrounding the post office. A nonprofit organization stepped forward to offer the town landscape expertise which included a plan, an irrigation system, to provide water for the plants in a physically challenging area, a variety of plants that were chosen to weather the salt spray and the wind, and they even had funds for replacement plants to equal about $10,500 as a gift to the town. After a very short discussion, the town council voted not to accept the offer on a vote of 2 to 2. It was mentioned by 2 of the town council members that there had been some concerns at the last minute from some of the neighbors. A collective shudder went through the entire town of Narragansett, especially from organizations that offer help to the town of Narragansett to beautify its area. Public-private partnerships are being made with groups in town to improve areas. Hundreds of hours are being spent on identifying a problem, offering solutions, and finding alternate sources of funding for a cash-strapped town to make our town more beautiful to our residents and more attractive to our visitors. The question arises, why help out the town under these circumstances when hours of efforts can be stopped in their tracks? Please, Town Council, reconsider your vote on the gazebo park at your next Town Council meeting. A plan worth $10,500 to beautify the center of town is worth reconsideration and a way to encourage other not-for-profit town organizations to step forward and offer much-needed services, make our public space more attractive. Together, we can make our visualization of a well-cared-for area a reality. Thank you very much.
So, Rosemary, I just want to say on that, it was a 2-2 vote, and I supported it, but I still struggled with I think she was the president of the South County Garden Club, that there was no ability to modify or compromise or meet halfway. We appreciated the gift, and again, I supported it, but when we were talking about it, we were trying to get a plan that would work for everybody, and there wasn't a spirit of coming together to modify the plan. It was, maybe we could look at the tree line. There wasn't any opportunity for them to say, okay, let's look at it and maybe tweak it a little. So even though I supported it, my colleagues, I'm not going to speak for them, but I felt like there wasn't a compromise.
Right, and I think I mentioned to you in an email that when you're doing a plan like that, there's a lot of input at the beginning of the plan. And then once you come to the final certified plan, it's very difficult to change that plan under the certification that it had. And so I think that's why the president of the Garden Club was concerned, because it had already gone through a process. It had gone through Parks and Recreation. The town manager was informed. I thought that the town council was being informed as the process was going through. And then to stop it at the very end and say we'd like to change it is just like telling an architect for a house, you know, the plans are out on the table and you've decided you're going to add another addition in a different direction. You have to go back to the planning board all over again. And so I think that was the concern at the last minute there. But I'm hoping that someone on the town council will reach out to the South County Garden Club and see what can we do to save this plan? What can we do to make it possible? Because I think this gift of $10,500 worth of services and plants is very difficult for the community to see you turn down at this point. Here's our way of trying to help. Here's a nonprofit organization's way of trying to help a town, and it's turned down. And it's, you know, it just needs to be reconsidered. Matt, I know you're one of the people who could possibly bring that forward, and Glenna, and I'm just hoping I've sent some emails to you that this can be reconsidered in the very near future.
And my hope was that the motion was going to be continued that evening, so there could be the reaching out, and
right.
and I felt we were backed into kind of an all or nothing corner and in that sense, and the maintenance issue I thought I had asked during the discussion about the maintenance, and I guess I want, for the record, the maintenance would have been done by the town, right,
Right.
going forward? Is that right, Steve? So that was but that wasn't the only factor. There were a lot of factors. There was different points of view on it. I think what people are most concerned about is cutting off and putting shrubbery or something around the dumpster. That's what, so it's not just, it was very black and white is how we were kind of forced to vote on it.
But
So I was hoping.
This is not around the dumpster. This is a total.
No, I
plan
understand, but I think that
55
many
years.
in town, I don't know if everybody feel, right? I think there are people there who are worried about their views. That was one group. But there's also people who are worried about just that's the ugly part, is that dumpster that protects that area, cordon that off. So I think what we want to do is maybe reach out to, some other people have also come forward as volunteers. So I think we want to maybe have those conversations, because it was the first I heard of it, was it being on the agenda. And I felt we were backed into a corner, as Susan described, you know, when it was like, we can't modify the plan, can't change it. So that was the rationale for my decision.
Might be helpful to, not the biggest fan of work sessions, but I think that a work session might be helpful in the situation to get some parties together and maybe come to some kind of compromise.
Good. I hope it's just not dead. I hope that something comes from this that will be helpful to the town, and I'm just asking you to reconsider, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Rosemary.
Thank you. Mr. Alba?
Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I don't know if you people saw this in the journal, but you must have seen it. The guide for the best places to go to. And oddly enough, Narragansett Pier, which, well, I shouldn't say pier because I have no pier, but Narragansett, which has one of the best top beaches in the world, is not even listed as one of the best places to go to this summer. So I think something should be done by this to the Chamber, not the Chamber of Commerce, but the Chamber of Commerce. They should find some way of getting our beach put in there as the #1 summer fun in the paper here. And as far as that marijuana goes, to me it's like the guns. When guns are outlawed, the outlaws will have them. And with marijuana, if they get so that they legalize it, I mean, I usually go along with Gerard there, or Gerald, but to me, my brother-in-law is an ex-state trooper, and he believes it should be legalized, because if you don't, what they do is they push us onto the young kids, get them hooked on it, and then they have to go rob or do whatever they have to do to get money to buy this marijuana. So I think that legalizing it not only will put a control in it, and also will stop the number of people incarcerated at the ACI, because most of them there are for marijuana purposes. So that they're in there, and so like I say, my brother-in-law is an ex-state trooper, and he feels it would be a good idea because of the fact that there won't be any pushers for it. If you have it like cigarettes or whatnot, and the revenue that we would make from that would be astronomical. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wojciechowski?
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. You know, and I hear people speak, they say, well, Narragansett, that's where the rich people are, you know. And I'm sure there's many millionaires out by the ocean. However, after reading the paper, we've got a financial critical status. So the town is broke, I guess. It just doesn't have money to pay its bills. So just the opposite. And then we see that then it says, well, we may have to have 4% increase in our tax rate. It just looks like we have a financial disaster in the making. And it doesn't seem like everybody's aware of the seriousness of this, because later on, I read that we have the school has got a surplus or surplus. They've got extra money sitting somewhere. $500,000, $500,000 sitting somewhere. Here we are trying to discuss our budget, the pennies, the 4% increase for the taxpayers, and we've got a department with $500,000 sitting there. I think there's something wrong here. Are we together on, is the whole town together on this issue where we have some issue with finances right now? And for us, I've always had a problem with surpluses. And then the surplus went away and it was unfunded line item, whatever it was. We have a $500,000 surplus, and I don't know how that happened. It just seems that there's some confusion on that.
I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit,
Please straighten
Stanley.
it
Yeah, I mean, you watch Kathy Sabala. She's worked really hard on her budget. She negotiated. She did an incredible job. She's an example for the town. And so her surplus is to her credit. So I just have to say that because she's worked really hard. And again, we strive to budget the way she does.
Yes, and I appreciate it. I think she's one of the best superintendents I've seen in my 30 years.
Fair enough.
Nothing I can say about her personally.
Yeah,
All I got to
yeah.
say is I know that in decision-making, we can't have one department having surpluses. And in fact, it sounds like this school department happened to be the department that is asking for another $300-some thousand because of their pension problem. So here they are asking for money, and they got a surplus back here. Nothing against the people involved. This is against the policy that you all are involved in, okay? So I just say, we don't need this 4% increase on anywhere near this kind of thing if we get rid of all our surpluses. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stanley.
Yes, ma'am.
Gail Shields on Earl's Court. Later on, you will get a bunch of signatures from voters in Narragansett on a petition that the Friends of the Library have put out asking that you please consider passing an ordinance so that we can have a bond issue on the November election to decide whether or not the town of people in Narragansett would like to have a new library. Now, there's 400 people about who've signed it, all voters, but there's many more people who use the library who can't vote and because they're too young or they live in other towns. We have a first-class library in this town, and we run first-class programs out of a fourth-class building. It's bursting at the seams, and the staff works extra hard to make all this happen. And we could do so much more if we had an adequate building. We have programs for 18-month-old children, and at one of our events, we celebrated the birthday of a 99-year-old patron. So we cover the whole area. Everybody in town can come to the library and find something there, and they do. And so I hope that you will realize that there are a lot of people who feel that we really should have a choice in November to vote whether we should have a bond issue for a new library. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, it's just about 8 o'clock. We'll move towards the public hearings, which are scheduled to begin at 8. I think it is 8 o'clock now. 8 o'clock. The first item is a public hearing on the application for a transfer of a liquor license for a Class B tavern liquor license from Rebecca Durkin, doing business as The Break, 1208 Ocean Road, Plat L, Lot 237A, to The Break LLC, 1208 Ocean Road, Plat L, Lot 237A. Would someone like to make a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Doherty, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Council President. Good evening, members of the council. Patrick Doherty, representing the Break LLC. We're here in follow-up to the granting of a liquor license last year with respect to the Break Hotel, 1208 Ocean Road. At the time of the hearing, we had not plotted out all of our potential plans and worked on the structure of ownership for the property. Naturally, it's more beneficial to an owner of an establishment that serves alcohol and conducts business activities to have some form of a protection through either a limited liability company or corporation. And hence, Jim and Rebecca Durkin have formed the Break LLC, and we wish to transfer the license to the Break LLC, which is the operator of the hotel, and away from Rebecca Durkin individually. I also note that the last time we were here, it was a very conceptual discussion about where and how we would be catering to the patrons of the Break Hotel, and the Break has retained some top shelf consultants to guide us through the process of making a realization of the food and beverage operations over there. They're Real Food, that's the name of their company out of Boston, and they've been working recently, even since the filing of the application for the transfer. And I would just like, for your own information, to provide you some schematics, and I also have them preloaded into Mr. DeLuca's computer over there. May I approach the council?
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pat, is this going to be the plan that the applicants ultimately want to have as part of the record for liquor license?
Yes, it is.
All right, so we should probably mark that as Exhibit 1 for this public hearing, James?
And if I'd just like to note that the Exhibit 1 consists of 2 pages marked FS1 and FS1.2. FS1 shows the layout of the first floor, which is the ground level of the building. You'll note, again, we're in a conceptual build-out process right now as well, but we've got some more finite details. If you look at the bottom of the graphic on the screen before you, and also on FS1, you will see that the portico and the front entrance to the area are depicted at the bottom. The bar areas that are in the schematic would be up in the left-hand corner, the upper left-hand corner. And we intend naturally to have both indoor and outdoor service within that area. To the right, to the upper right, there are seating areas that will be the restaurant and also a private dining room, potentially the sunroom. But we would like the ability, as I stated at our hearing when we first got the license, to continue on with being able to serve throughout the hotel premises, both indoor and out, to cater to the needs of the guests. If you look in this area, we also have a front porch area, which would be depicted over on the bottom of the graphic itself. That would be on the outside, those areas that are open, fairly open to the left and the right of the portico. And that's merely if guests want to sit out on the veranda on the porch, have a cocktail or a glass of wine, and watch the comings and goings. We also have the pool area outside as well that will be accessed through the bar service area. And then if we could switch to the other graphic, Michael, please. In the course of the build-out, as you recall, we were talking about a roof deck area. And as the architect finished out the plans, we noted that there would be a very nice, intimate space on the interior of it. If you see the elevator in the very section of the middle of the graphic there, surrounding that area is a very nice, intimate style room. The round circles to the very middle, there, right there, those would be table seating in a bumped-out area that will be closed with glass, so you could view the ocean to the east. The top of the graphic shows the east to the ocean. And the outer area will be where those squares and blocks are. We'll have some very nice, comfortable, upscale patio-style furniture that's designed to, give you the experience of arriving at a friend's really nice beach house. I think that's the concept that they're going for here. Some really nice friends with some really nice upscale amenities. And that's what the break is trying to fulfill. If you look to the, to the right area over there, there is, I'm sorry, Michael, to the left. I'm holding my graphic upside down. There are plans there to have a service area to support liquor and food and drink preparation that will be run primarily out of the, the main level kitchen. There's a dumbwaiter built into the thing, and there's also a service stairwell that will allow for unimpeded transport of, what have you, the drinks, appetizers, and things of that nature. But we've built in a special prep area there as well. And naturally, all this is compliant with building code and is compliant with the special use permit that was granted previously. But we'd like the ability, again, as we stated before, to have the guests be able to go out. And the roof deck that's below, that's not the premier roof deck. That's the one that I'm referring to is primarily, if we scroll that down, Michael, please. Thank you. Is the area that has the concave angle to the, it's not an angle, concave line out there overlooking the ocean. That's primarily where the guests will be on the outside. And in that little rectangular area surrounding the elevator is where the guests are planning on congregating on the inside. In addition to that, due to the architecture, there are two pretty intimate seating areas to the left and the right that are noted as such, which will allow for private parties of a limited number to sit down, relax, enjoy themselves in some overstuffed couches and whatnot. So I'd just like to note that on the original application that we didn't have a draft system planned at that point. It had yet to be determined, but we will be having a draft system, certainly on the lower level and also on the upper level in the service area. There won't be any open taps sitting in the upper roof area whatsoever. But in the interests of, answering some questions and just giving full disclosure, we did request when we were here before to get the ability to serve throughout the premises and around the pool area and on the veranda and whatnot to accommodate the guests. And so we're giving you that here so you know what you've approved. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to, help you out with that. We are contemplating a June 25th opening date, and we're going gangbusters with the construction down there right now.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions? Open it up to discussion for the public. Any comment for or against the proposal? Please state your name and address upon approach and be sworn in by Mr. McSally. Any comments? Mr. Alba.
Would you raise your right hand, Mr. Alba? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, we know your name by now, so you're all set.
Definitely, if people know what I'm going to say, that we're definitely looking for tourists and whatnot, and if this is going to promote more tourism, I'm all for it. So good luck to you.
Looks like there's Mr. Wojciechowski.
Raise your right hand, please stand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
I still need you to spell your last name.
W-O-J-C-I-E-C-H-O-W-S-K-I.
Thank you.
It's obvious that the building, if you look at it, at this point, it's a beautiful place, and I can't see any reason not to allow them to accomplish a business plan and make this change. So I really request that you give them this. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like there's no further comments from the public. Someone can make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any further discussion from the council?
That looks good to me.
This is a transfer of the license from one business entity to another, correct? So, as people know, I've had my concerns with the project and talked to Jimmy about the project. My concern all along has been the parking. I know we approved a new parking plan that was brought to us. Hopefully that will mitigate some of the problems, but I still have those same concerns. So just want to put that on the record about the increased parking in that area.
Someone can make a motion to approve the transfer of a liquor license for a Class B tavern liquor license from Rebecca Durkin, doing business as The Break, 1208 Ocean Road, Plat L, Lot 237A, to The Break LLC, 1208 Ocean Road, Plat L, Lot 237A.
Can we also add just to approve the exhibit as the authorized service areas plus the property description as was relayed to on the record, including the pool area, just so there's no question about where you can serve alcohol in this facility?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
3-1, the motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Moving on to the second public hearing, a public hearing on the application for a new liquor license for a Class BV limited liquor license, Aunt Carrie's, Inc., 1240 Ocean Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island, Plat L, Lot 233.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Packer, welcome.
For the record, my name is Donald Packer. I'm an attorney in South Kingstown. I'm representing the applicant and property owner. With me this evening is Elsie Foy to testify, if I could have her sworn.
Sure. Could you raise your right hand, please? You swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Elsie Foy, F-O-Y.
Thank you.
Now, Elsie, you're a trustee of the trust that owns the property?
Yes.
And what is the name of the business entity that operates the business?
Aunt Carrie's, Inc.
And are you an officer of that corporation?
Yes, the president.
And you're requesting a beer and wine license for the restaurant?
Yes.
And are there any physical changes to the property that are being proposed with, along with this liquor license request?
No.
And where are the alcohol service areas?
Only inside the dining room.
I mean, no service at the outside, at the takeout windows, or anything of that nature?
Correct.
Are there any menu changes from what you've historically served at the restaurant?
No.
And are there any changes in the hours of operation that are being proposed with the new liquor license?
No.
I don't have any other questions of Ms. Foy. Certainly we'll answer what you have.
So the alcohol is only served in Aunt Carrie's, not at the window, nowhere else, but just inside the establishment. Everything else is remaining the same, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now take any comments in favor or against from the public. Looks like this is something that was maybe long overdue. Who knows?
There was a great history about Aunt Carrie's. I love that.
Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to approve the application for a new liquor license for Class BV limited liquor license on Carrie's, Inc., 1240 Ocean Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island, Plat L, Lot 233.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. And move on to the next public hearing. A motion to open the public hearing on the 2014 Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief CDBG-DR application.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Luca, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a very brief presentation on the on this application that that the town is considering submitting. So what I'd like to do is give you a little brief description of what this is about, and then take questions. So what we're doing is considering two actions here today. One is right now holding the public hearing, and second is to adopt a resolution approving in support of 3 pending applications for CDBG-DR. So what is CDBG-DR? It is the Community Development Block Grant Program. You've seen it all before, but this is a special program that's being issued out of sequence with the regular program that the Fed, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the state's Office of Housing and Community Development sponsor. And this is specifically for repairs and reconstruction of properties damaged through the disasters, primarily Hurricane Sandy and secondarily Hurricane Irene and Winter Storm Nemo. So, oops, I hit the button a little too fast. Okay. So there we have the outcome of the aftermath of one of our storms. That's actually Central Street, 24 hours after Hurricane Irene. That was what caused this building to go without electricity for 6 days. So first, a little background on this particular program. This is not, by the way, again, not the regular CDBG program. You'll be seeing that in about a month. This is a special pot of funds being made available by HUD. It is, in fact, $19.24 million dedicated to the state of Rhode Island. 50% is set aside for low and moderate income areas, which we are not requesting any funding on at this time. But the other 50% is set aside for urgent need applications and repairs, as I mentioned, to facilities damaged by the hurricanes would qualify. Most importantly, the fact most important to this is that 80% of that $19 million is dedicated to Washington County communities. So there's a great deal of funding available for us and our cohorts along the South Shore. Moving on to the next. The state action plan. This is something that's a little different from the standard CDBG. There has to be an action plan created on behalf of the state to anticipate how they're going to spend the $19 million and to then be sent up to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We are in version 3 right now. The first, I don't even know what the first one was, but the second one was for Hurricane Irene. And we're in the middle of that process. The town actually submitted preliminary requests in January of 2014 to be placed on the action plan. We had 8 requests, and of the 8, 3 were pre-qualified. We were then invited to submit formal applications, and to submit that formal application, we need this hearing tonight. The action plan being created by the state has already been drafted and sent to HUD a month ago. And the very important component of that plan is the needs assessment, which identifies proposals most closely aligned with the unmet needs tied to the disasters. So here are our 3 applications, and I can answer questions about the first one, and Jeff Cesarine is here in case you have any specific questions about the second and third. The first is a debris management plan, and what we intend to do is to hire a consultant to assist the town, particularly the departments of engineering and public works and the 2 public safety departments, fire and police, in drafting a plan that would assist us and guide us in the post-disaster timeframe as to how to remove debris as quickly as possible and to make difficult decisions like how much can the town remove and when do we make a decision to contract with an outside contractor to do the debris removal for us in the event of a very large disaster. So the idea here is to have a plan in place rather than just going on gut response. And I want to highlight that this plan is a fallback option because we have also signed on with our colleagues along the South Shore, South Kingstown. Let me see, I want to read the list. Exeter, Charlestown, North Kingstown, South Kingstown, Richmond, and Westerly to apply to the state for a regional debris management plan. And should that application be accepted, then we would drop our individual application and work with the other communities. If that application is not accepted, we would have at least had the council approve the town going forward with our own. The second project is the most expensive and certainly the most important, and that is flood-proofing measures for the Scarborough wastewater treatment facility. And it is, the purpose, as you can see in this slide, is to retain a consultant to identify viable options for flood-proofing and to oversee the design and permitting for the construction, also to do the construction of the flood-proofing. This project is not immediately committed for funding, but they have, the state has asked us to submit more detailed information about what we would anticipate would be the flood-proofing measures, but we want to keep it in the application so that in the event that they do approve us in the future, we will have already received your support. The last is Stanton Avenue Pump Station. For those of you who know, Stanton Avenue is down in the south end in Sand Hill Cove. The pump station is at the end of the street, very close to the waterfront, and in large storms it floods. And then when it floods, it goes off. And so then we don't have a pump station for a while. So what we want to do is provide a permanent on-site standby power generator that would kick on as soon as that inevitability would occur and allow the pump station to continue working full-time. There is a fourth element. I didn't put it on here. We never put it in. It's the administration. There's a fund. Whenever we ask for CDBG funds, we ask for administrative funding equal to 10% of the total. So we're asking for $70,000 for the administration. We don't have to ask for it. I want you to be aware of it. But whenever we get a CDBG grant, we typically get administrative funds in the range of 8 to 10%. So that is it. I do have some graphics to show you.
So Mike, that Stanton Avenue, a lot of people always call on that Stanton Avenue
Yes.
just because it does flood. So if that 175 will eliminate that flooding a little bit?
Yes, it would.
Yeah,
What it
yeah.
would, I don't know that it would eliminate the flooding, but it would keep the pump station working, the sewage pump station. This is Scarborough. I'll show you Stanton Avenue. Whoops, sorry. There we go. And to look at this is an aerial photograph. Stanton Avenue is coming in from the top left. The pump station is right there in the yellow box. The area you see shaded in green is a flood area. The area you see shaded in pink is the area subject to the storm surge. So as you can see, it's in a pretty precarious spot. Going back to Scarborough, this wastewater treatment facility is largely outside of the storm surge area, but there is a small area depicted by this flood map that shows a few of the buildings being subject to flooding in the event of a major storm. So that is the end of my presentation. I would ask that you take comment, close the hearing, deliberate, and hopefully support the 3 applications, and then also to adopt the resolution that I may ask Town Manager Nolan to sign and send up to, oh no, actually it would be, I believe, Council President Callahan to sign and send up to the state. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Mr. Luca.
What's the time frame for getting these, like when would we hear from CDBG?
Yeah, I should have highlighted that our deadline to submit is May 2nd, and typically it takes them 3 to 4 months to make a decision on that.
And then
whether
there's
it's
a
regular
waiting,
CDBG or the
and then there's a
DRs.
waiting period after that for public comment, is that correct?
I don't believe there's a public comment period. I'm going to ask Jeff Marchant for a little help on that. Once we receive, this is Jeff Marchant from the East Greenwich Consortium. He's our consultant who helps us assists us in administration of the CDBG funds.
Good evening. Actually, the action plan that contains these activities is before HUD now. We expect a response to that sometime in May. Once HUD has approved the action plan, we have 2 years to spend the money. So HUD approval, this application is a formality. It provides additional detail to the action plan, but once HUD approves it, it's approved. So we'll have to do the environmental review and request release of funds. So these are both floodplain activities, so that's a 45-day process. But after that, you can spend money.
So you're going through the comment period right now, is what you're saying? There's like a
The
public
state-
comment period?
The state had its comment period during the month of March.
Okay.
This public comment is, I know it sounds weird. This public comment is on Narragansett's activities specifically. Once you conclude this and approve the application, you're done with public input on these activities.
So our other CDBG stuff that we had, that we sent at the end of last summer, that we're still waiting on some of it, what's the holdup on that?
The version 2, the disaster money?
Mm-hmm. It was in August. It was August meeting, Mike.
Yeah, there's no...
Because that had the 4-month period, and then I thought there was a 60-day comment period when, after that.
Yes. Mike referenced version 1 action plan earlier. He said he didn't know what it was. What version 1 was what version 2 became. There were activities in version 1 that HUD did not approve, that forced a change in the name of the action plan to version 2. Colonel John Gardner Road was reserved, a spot, shall we say. We tried to get it fully funded for version 3, and during the state comment period, that was not successful.
So what's the status of that?
The status of that is the local public notice of work in a floodplain public comment process concludes Saturday. We will request release of funds Monday, and 15 days later, the state will issue a notice of authority to use grant funds for the repair of that John Gardner Road.
I just have a question for Mike. In determining the projects, was it your department that did it, you and Jeff's department? How did you determine for the disaster?
It was a team effort of the entire senior management team under town manager's direction. We all went back to the drawing board, and when we found out the funding was going to be available, we looked at the applications that we had requested before that might have been capable of being improved a bit. Mm-hmm. And then there were some new ones that came along that we hadn't thought of before. So we did assemble the information from all the departments, engineering, DPW, library, et cetera. Public safety. Thank you.
Thanks, yeah, I just was curious of how it was determined. Great.
Thank you very much. Mr. Traeger.
Before I start,
I think
are we going to have a public forum opened up again?
I think we have to get sworn in on this public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah, could you raise your right hand, please? You swear the testimony about to give in the matter now and hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Certainly.
Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Bob Traeger, Trager. This is an interesting situation here. I just wonder, you made a vote a few weeks ago and denied the movement on the sewer project in Jerusalem, which I wasn't going to mention tonight because I wanted to speak with you, Mr. Callahan, before I did, but I'll just mention it now because it fits right into this. It just fits in this way, that Jerusalem, again, is a non-entity as far as Narragansett is concerned, except the taxes you pull in from it. I mean, Jerusalem was underwater in Hurricane Sandy. And I'm looking for a solution, environmentally safe solution, to the sewer problem down there. And we spent 5 years working on it with other councils that agreed 100% that this would be a thing to do if we got the correct approvals, and we finally did. The state was on board, DEM was on board, all the hoops were jumped through. And all I'm going to bring up as far as this is concerned, I think that is a project that should be included in this request from the state, because this is actually really going to do something good for the environment. I just feel myself and I feel for other people that get up here. Earlier in the meeting, the group that spent all that time coming up with a good plan to take care of something, and then what we get from you guys is statements like, well, we want something a plan that will work for everyone. No plan works for everyone. Ask Obama. No plan works for everyone. But instead of that, what you accomplish is destroying the trust of people that are stepping forward, volunteering their time and money at times, apparently, which if they can do that, that's a wonderful thing. And yet, they seem like it is so easy for people to just push it aside on some whim or someone else's getting to them and telling them things that are not necessarily shared with the public. And I'd like everything to be shared with me on these issues. I've worked hard, I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I know how important it is to a lot of people. I hope they get the money. I hope it's used well.
Mr. Alba.
I just remind you, you're still under oath from the last hearing, Mr. Alba. You're good.
I certainly am for them getting the money, but I do feel that we've had the disaster of the pier. And I think some of that money should go towards building a pier to make our beach more year-round feasible. I mean, the beach is named after the pier, but there's no pier. So that would be something that if they can get the money, perhaps some of it can go towards building our pier that will bring on fishermen and whatnot, and throughout the whole year, keep the traffic flowing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beatty.
Could you raise your right hand, please, Matt? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Patrick Brady.
Thank you.
This is the first time I've heard of it. These three projects, the first project for $25,000 to hire a consultant, to me seems like really a waste of money with all the concerns we have in this town about flooding. We have serious flooding situations on Boston Neck Road from the north of the beach all the way down to Monahan's Dock. Mr. Albert is correct. We do need a pier. We need a breakwater jetty extended from Monahan's Dock to protect Ocean Road from the next hurricane, or Ocean Road is going to be gone. Where did we come up with the priorities for these three projects? It's one of these things that at the last minute it's put before the council. It's too late to do anything. The money's, it's already been planned. Where was the list of items for the people of this town to select which ones were for priority? We need to set those priorities for storms. It's obviously too late to do anything about this, just like it was too late 2 weeks ago for the South County Museum to go to public hearing because it was a backroom deal. And I'm sorry, but this type of procedure before the town council is unacceptable, at least to this resident. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wojciechowski.
Stan, you're still under oath from the last hearing.
I just wanted to ask, is there a cost to the taxpayer? Is there a cost to the taxpayer on this?
It's a grant.
CDBG funds are 100% federally funded, CDBG grants.
Federal tax dollars.
Federal tax dollars.
There are tax dollars.
Thank you. Looks like there's no further public comment. A motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. A motion to approve the 2014 Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief CDBG-DR application.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Everyone, Matt, did you go?
Please.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry. 4-0, motion carries. And finally, a motion to adopt a resolution in support of the 3 pending applications for CDBG funding in this year's disaster relief grant round.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0, and that concludes the public hearing portion of the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll move on now to the consent. I'm sorry?
We have to close the vote.
Mark, do you have to close the public hearing in general, or we did that for each separate?
Do it for each one.
Each separate one's fine,
did
James,
separate.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyone would like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Yes, number 16, please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 15 and 16A.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6 in the consent agenda is by itself, a motion to receive and place on file signed petitions from the Friends of Narragansett Library requesting the town council place a bond issue on the ballot for a new library facility.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, sorry,
So
discussion.
the rationale was a few people, I think, wanted to speak on the item. I know Mrs. Shields already has spoken on it, but some people had requested that they wanted to speak on it in the public, from the public. But I don't know if there's other people besides Mrs. Shields who want to speak to it.
Ma'am?
Lori Kelly, I'm on the Board of Trustees for the library, and I just wanted to take this moment to, again, stress the amount of support in the community for the library, the expanding use. Every year we have more and more activities and more public visits us. We serve the entire community of 16,000 people. The Friends of the Library have very prudently issued a petition, which we are presenting tonight, which asks you to put the library on the ballot in November. And the reason that this is important is you've already put other community interests on the ballot in November. We do need more space, and we would hope that you would allow the people of Narragansett to decide which projects should be funded by the town. So again, we feel like at the library we're sort of limiting ourselves because we're getting up against the timing to go to the state and put it on November's ballot. So that's basically the 400 signatures are asking you as a town council to consider that this is needed by the town. Any questions that you have for any of us? Or?
I have a question. We don't have a plan for the library. You're not asking for that or a dollar amount to spend. You're just asking.
Well, we have been, which I think that you're aware of, been working with the town manager on a couple different fronts, which I think we discussed in a work session. So at this point, with what we're going publicly, we are not asking for a dollar amount. We'd be willing to work with you on that.
What do you, for the referendum though, what are you asking? What do you, it's just a question on for the referendum?
Right.
Do you want a library or
we would like to expand our facility, whether that's moving to a new space or renovating, to meet the current requirements, but we need more room. And we have worked with the town manager and the finance director with a range of numbers. But again, I'm just hoping that we don't run out of time to get it on this year's ballot. So that's basically what's behind this.
But are you going to have a number on it if it goes through?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. And again, because I have to say, I understand what the town's going through with the, up against the debt ceiling, et cetera. And if we could just say that over the last few years, the council has changed, the town manager has changed, we keep being told it's not our time, and it's getting to the point where it's critical to us that we at least get on the ballot, and if the people don't support it, or if in November it passes, but you say this is, we're up against the budget, we cannot raise taxes to cover this, we understand. But to not get to that point is very frustrating for the patrons, because it looks like we're not being supported and other projects are being put forward.
Ms. Nolan?
Yes, in executive session, we are having a discussion on our deliberations tonight. It's on the agenda for tonight under real estate. So, our finance director and I are going to report on our negotiations to you tonight. So there'll be more information.
And just for public consumption, obviously we are in the middle of the budget process, and it's obvious that we're having financial difficulties in some respect in town. And Ms. Kenyon did mention last Tuesday night that our debt ratio is becoming close to its limit, and depending on the cost of this project, which we don't know, depending on what it is, we are reaching our limit for what we can borrow and what we should borrow. So that is definitely a concern, even though everyone supports a library. It's very difficult. Very difficult.
And we all understand that because we all live in town and we pay the taxes. So, so we appreciate you trying to keep, the budget down. But again, we're kind of we feel, and most of the patrons feel, we're kind of at a critical point right now. We need to do something.
We went through the bond items on December 2nd, Pam, and you were just starting off, but do we know historically why we were, I was really hopeful a library discussion would have been had with the other 3 bond items. We had, the whole point of that was having them the same night, and it was early in your tenure, but did maybe the library people, why that wasn't, because we moved things around, so we had those discussions all in the same evening, so we could show the priorities to the town, and there were a lot of people in the audience on those 3 bond items. And
Right.
the library was in the conversation until not the last minute, but, there was, the hope was there would be a specific plan from the library at that time. And we just, and again, you were only here about a month at the time, but,
Again, there was some negotiation going on, and so we were waiting for the other side. We can't really go forward publicly saying, this is our plan, if we're not sure that that would be, the other side was going to give us a
so it was
number.
because of the negotiations, it wasn't because somebody was stalling it in the town hall before, before Pam came on?
No,
or there
no,
was- okay.
but again, every time the town manager changes or the council changes, we kind of start over again with trying to get back on the plan. So we have had a consultant for 2 years now, trying to get a project done, looking at different properties, et cetera. And again, even though we are the library, we can't negotiate for a building change on our own. That has to go through the town. So there has been, not anyone's fault, but again, that's where we stand. That's why we weren't on December, and that's why we're just trying to bring it up, that we would like to be on November. And we realize we're getting up against the last minute registration or whatever for the bond.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Walden? Ms. Walden? Yeah, you. Marie? Marie? Yeah.
Yes. Her name.
Marie Yunkin-Waldman, Narragansett. I'm just here to say a few words about the library. And I'm involved with an organization of citizens which is called Where's the Town? And we've been trying to do something about revitalizing the whole Pier Marketplace area. And I think that right now the library is probably what we would consider the center of the community of our town. It's where people go, it's where people meet each other, it's where they take advantage of the resources and the activities that are offered by the library. And libraries are starting to do different things in the future. They will be offering all kinds of new types of resources and activities, which you can talk to the librarians more about than me. But including technology and so forth that will be available to the community. But I feel very strongly, too, that the library is our center, our sense of community. And if the library needs larger facilities, perhaps located in the Pier Marketplace area, I think that would be a real plus and a real positive way of getting that whole area revitalized, energized, and much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alba?
Well, as she said, we do need something to revitalize Narragansett town. And definitely a library does bring people into the town. So definitely we should do something for them, and the sooner the better.
Thank you. Mr. Chorney?
Good evening, Harris Chorney. As you know, I'm chair of the town's Citizens Finance Committee, and it is hard to argue against the library. When my granddaughter visits, our granddaughter visits, we go there, and it is a wonderful place. I think the reason why I wanted to get up tonight, which I wasn't planning on doing, is to say that before any sort of additional debt is added to the town's obligations, I think the town council needs to really have a full understanding as to what the town's debt is. We talk about state, the debt limitations that you're up against now. That's one thing. But what you'll hear from us, hopefully, us being the Finance Committee, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we are going to talk about, come before you with an update on the pension and OPEB sustainability. And what you'll find is that there's still a significant amount of an obligation that this town has that will be going on, potentially be going on the balance sheet of this town. And potentially that could be over $100 million. And that's a significant amount. Amounts that you all are probably aware of that exist. But that doesn't seem, and I do want to certainly give credit to the town manager and the town finance director for candidly bringing all this to the forefront with what they're proposing to do with the pension and funding of the pension, which is just one piece. But I just wanted to say, I think before anything, and I know you're not approving any sort of adding any debt tonight, but before you do, I think this town council and the town's residents, all the town's residents, need to truly understand what obligations that this town is facing going forward, and that 2.5% and 4% tax increases aren't going to fix the problem over the next 2 or 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
David Smith. Over the last 3 years, I've put on a series of events at the library, which many of them drew capacity, over capacity. We had to turn people away. So from that point of view, I know that as a venue, a public venue, it's stressed. But I think more importantly, I'm experience of living in 2 other locales where the libraries were significantly enhanced. One, where they expanded the library facilities, the other one where they built a new library, and in both cases, those new facilities generated tremendous economic change in the town and created the kind of town center and activity that Shunkin was talking about. It was a boon to the local restaurants, made visits to the town multi-purpose, and it gave a whole sense of community to those 2 locales. And I think we should really keep our eye on the prize and see what really wants to drive economic development in the town of Narragansett. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Brady?
Well, I think first, at the cost, obviously the council doesn't know what the cost is going to be. I signed that petition. I think I was on number 5 on the first page. But I've come to realize that this town has serious financial problems. And I don't think they've come to light yet. And To allow another bond issue to be placed on in November, I think would be irresponsible. But I have one question. Who owns the land underneath the library?
We do.
Could it?
We
Yes.
do. Town, we.
Yes.
The current library? Yes, we own the land.
It's not leased from Gilbane?
No. Not our current library.
Not the current library. I've heard talk of the possibility of moving it to the market, which is owned by Gilbane.
We are not able to talk about that right now. It's privileged and confidential.
So that's leased land in that case. If it were
Excuse
to be
me?
moved there, it's leased land there. It would be leased land you would be building on.
I'm sorry, I can't talk about that right now. I cannot. It's privileged.
As far as the police department and the fire department, who owns that property underneath
We
that?
do.
Right.
Who owns the property underneath the office building across from the market?
That's Jim Riley, that's where I work, Jim Riley and Peter Lodge. It's
You-
privately owned.
You own the property underneath it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wojciechowski.
I love the library. It's a beautiful place. In fact, I met my wife in the library, you know, in the reference room at URI, not this one, but at a library. So I have a special feeling for libraries. Right now, we are looking at options. And I can visualize, you know, the library staff has done such a fantastic job of getting these movies and talks on. They really have done some fabulous work on that. And I can envision that really what we should do is we should be using the high school auditorium for these events. Again, what existing facilities can we use to augment the library? That auditorium sits there, parking, large facility, empty, and it could hold all these events at the high school. I see an O'Brien building over here. I can visualize as we lose more and more students, we're going to have a part of that school that may be half empty. So I can envision that the library could probably have an annex there where there's plenty of parking, okay? You have access, you have parking. I just can't envision us taking a multi-million-dollar plot of land in the center of town for a government or town facility. I just don't think that's right. And yes, we want to generate some economic stimulator there, but I just don't see this as the type of stimulation we need, not at the expense of the taxpayer at this point. And if you want to, let's look at all our options. Right now, we can't even afford the bond issues that we put forward. And I'm going to request that we withdraw that because we're not economically viable in order to afford that. And I don't know what state organization is going to allow us in our financial condition to even go forward with any bond issue. I'd like to know who's authorizing it. It sounds like something's inappropriate here. We're in a critical situation, and the state's going to give us permission to loan money? Doesn't sound right to me. Something's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
I'm Patty Arkwright, I'm the library director, and I just wanted to bring up some information, general information about finances. I am not a financial expert by any means, but I just wanted to, again, make you aware that the state does offer funding to libraries for construction, and that over a period of 20 years, they will reimburse up to 50% of the funds. And that, again, is based on a program that they've established, and many libraries across the state have used that program. And they are receiving money right now for Tiverton to have a library rebuilt. So again, there are many options. We haven't been able to get, again, because we don't have the price, we don't have the specifics, but another option is Champlain Foundations. They've supported libraries across the state and across the nation. So again, we would be looking for alternate funding, but in the meantime, again, we're looking for the community support and for the support of the council. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to new business. Number 17, a motion to approve and join in a settlement agreement that has been negotiated between United Water Rhode Island, Inc. and the Public Utilities Commission.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Wojciechowski. It's hot tonight.
I really hate to be a pest, but I happen to look at the documents here. We're looking at a 32.83% increase in water rates. 32% increase. Now, and then right below that, it says they're looking for a return on equity of 9.65 and the overall return of 7.94. Where do you get such a fantastic? They are obviously getting excessive returns on their money. I mean, you're lucky to be able to look with the bank accounts, 1%. Stock, Buffett says 6%. These guys want 9.6 and 7.9. We have to send a message that we're upset. PUC, again, has made a mistake in allowing this excessive increase. They allowed it. The state has allowed it. Again, I don't know if they're financial. Where's the financial wizard that says that they are allowed to have 9.65%? That's wrong. You must vote against this. This must not be passed. Otherwise, you allow them to think that it's okay for the state to continue to allow these excessive costs. Doesn't fit. 7.9, 9.6 doesn't fit. 32% doesn't make it. And somebody has to stand up. Somebody. Will anybody? Will you stand up and not pass this thing to send a message to the PUC that they've made a mistake here? Somebody has to. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nolan, would you mind just explaining, or Mr. McSally? the
Sure,
process?
I'll give you some background. Stan, you're free to go stand with the PUC and make that speech. They love public comment. To give you a little background on this, I mean, it's an adversary administrative proceeding that was instituted by United Water asking for a rate increase. There's a process you follow. The state is a party to that because by state statute, they're the advocate for the public. Under the Attorney General's office, they have a division that deals with these rate increases for all public utilities. Individuals and businesses and municipalities that are affected by a rate increase have the right to request to intervene and become a full party in these proceedings, which Narragansett did, which South Kingstown did, which Union Fire District did. We petitioned and became a party to it. As such, just like a trial, you are now a party with a lawyer and witnesses you have to present at an administrative hearing. South Kingstown, Union Fire District, Narragansett jointly retain the services of an expert because this is all expert testimony as to what rates are appropriate given the PUC regulatory landscape, what rates of return are appropriate, what is the cost of service that's appropriate. All those things are expert testimony. We retained an expert. The expert came back with a report which referenced that the proposed settlement agreement dropping the rate increase from 42.6% to the 32 whatever number it is percent was reasonable, that there was no real basis for him to propose any expert testimony to the contrary. Likewise, the state, who had their own series of experts, came up with the same testimony. So we're in a position where the people that are advocating as parties have no witness to present. So we either go to the hearing and say, I want to object like Stanley can, but we have no witness to present. So we, based upon our own experts' presentation, our own experts' advice, have discussed this with the council in executive session and have recommended that we have no other witnesses to present. It has a reduction, but it's the best that came about in this process. And we're the only ones, as of now, that have not signed on to the settlement agreement. PUC still will make a decision, which is why the public can make comments, but they're looking for expert testimony. So again, given that we're an intervener, given that we're a party, given that our own expert witness has said the settlement's reasonable in public and in his testimony, we don't have much to present besides that at the moment. We can say that we're upset about it. We can say we don't like the way they calculated it. But that's lay person's testimony, which Stanley's free to give or anybody else is free to give at the PUC. But us as a party, we need someone to stand up there and as an expert, and we don't have that. The experts signed on to the settlement agreement after a thorough review.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Number 18, a motion to approve the purchase of 5 additional Motorola 800 MHz mobile radios for Department of Public Works vehicles and equipment from Motorola Solutions in the amount of $12,908.72.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Beatty?
I'd just like to take this opportunity, seeing this is the first item under new business that raises the issue of appropriating money to be spent. Tonight, on this agenda, you have $354,000 that it appears you're going to approve in spending. It appears the council doesn't realize that this town's in financial trouble because we are spending wildly with no abandon. You're going to have to stop. Someone's going to stop you eventually. I mean, you've got to put the brakes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Why do we need these radios? One in particular on a backhoe.
Let me call Chief Hoxie or Mr. Osterhout forward. Excuse me. Our Director of DPW. Why do we need the radio for the backhoe? If you don't mind, Dave.
Not just the backhoe, why do we need all the radios?
So that we can coordinate responses, primarily emergency storm responses, whether they be winter, hurricane, tropical storm, street flooding, or whatever. This is how we communicate during our responses in a similar way to how the police department communicates and the fire department communicates.
No, I understand that, but how did you do it? What's new now that didn't happen this past year? How did you communicate for the past winter, for example, the winter storms? Why do we need these new radios? Are we replacing radios, or what is the status here?
No, what we're trying to do is finish up a project which started 6 or 7 years ago, and incorporating fixed radios in each of our primary vehicles and pieces of equipment. During the last winter and during Hurricane Sandy, we would have had to use portable radios, which require more frequent charging. And so it's perfectly possible that during a long duration response, the portable radio the battery would die while the equipment or truck is out there working, and it interrupts the control of the whole operation. So this pretty much finishes us off. We've been doing
These radios can fail too.
Well, then you got a problem.
Yeah, well, I just don't,
So
I think
the point is, this is-
$12,000 is a lot of money for what you want to do. You can buy a lot of cell phones for that rate, or a lot less money than
Well,
that. No.
The problem is that the town has not chosen cell phones as their primary means of communication during emergency responses.
I know the town does a lot of things that they probably shouldn't be doing, and that's probably why we're in the fix that we're in now, and I agree with Mr. Brady.
Not that one.
That's what we do best around here, spend a lot of money on stuff we don't need.
Any other questions?
That's it.
If I could just add one thing, cell phones during a disaster and emergency is probably the last thing to use because our service goes down so quickly. It's just not, it's not a good policy because we lose the ability almost immediately to use our cell phones. So radios are the fallback, and they're still the strongest means of communication in emergency situations.
So the last 6 years
We
we've
have
used
we
the
have an
radios?
emergency situation here in town now, and judging from what I see these expenditures that we're coming up on, it's not helping that problem at all, not at all.
So can I just ask about the radios? So for the last 6 years, we've communicated with the radios? Is that the way it's been, Dave? And this is just finishing up? We've always used the radios to communicate, and this is the last leg of ordering them so we can continue that communication? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
Nay.
3-1, the motion carries. Number 19, a motion to approve the removal and replacement upgrade of 300 feet of sewer line on Robinson Street utilizing the town's existing miscellaneous repair and construction contract with George Sherman Sand and Gravel, Inc. in the amount of $20,000.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm probably going to vote for it, only because they're going to resurface the street. It doesn't make much sense to come back down a couple of years later and dig it up again, but that's all I have to say about it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 20, a motion to approve the contractual agreement between the town of Narragansett and Chris McGrath to assist the director and assistant director of Narragansett EMA with support and expansion of the town's emergency preparedness services.
So move.
Second. Could we?
Mr.
Yeah, I was
McLaughlin?
just gonna ask somebody to explain it.
Why do we need this position? What's the role here when we have, and did we have this same position in place during Hurricane Sandy?
We have an EMA director, that's the Chief Partington, and we have an assistant director, that's Chief Hoxie.
I know that.
However, this person is a consultant that will be paid for entirely out of grants, and he will assist. It's become, since 911, a huge job for the fire chief or whoever in the fire department does emergency management, and this person is an expert and can help him set up a better EMA program in Narragansett than we have right now.
Well, what areas are they going to improve on with
Why
this new
don't,
director?
if you don't mind, I would ask
because
Chief Partington to,
Because we have very competent people in those positions.
we do. They're very busy,
and they-
too.
Pardon me?
They're very busy also. This is just consultant that's an expert that's able to help
And he's got a
him.
$25 an hour fee for anything extraordinary.
This is grant
I'm
money.
just wondering if it isn't another bureaucratic level that we're putting in here that we don't need. Maybe the city of Providence might need it, Warwick needs it, but I mean, does Narragansett really need it? I assume that our directors, they go to the meetings, they're very well in tune with what's going on in the state and very well aware what plans that they have and those things.
I don't think that I have to say it, but the emergency management field and our response to emergency management has reached critical demand because of the terrorist and the emergency incidents that we've had to respond to. It's a different field than it was probably 10, 12 years ago, and it's grown immensely. Again, can I have the chief please come forward and address why now he feels, because he has served also as before he became chief, he was the captain in charge of EMA. He is still doing that job. We just assigned somebody in the fire department to be the EMA coordinator. So he works, it's not a full-time position, it's part of his regular, it's so many hours a week. And the chief still feels that he needs this expert consultant to help him with EMA.
Well, I read his resume. You can, Chief, if you want to, go ahead. I read the guy's resume, and I would say the people we're talking about now are just as qualified as he is.
Well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
Well, you were doing it all those years, Chief, right? You were doing it as a
yes,
captain.
the fire chief in particular was doing it all those years. This gentleman also worked under the former chief as well, assisting him in some duties. At the time, he was working for the town as a police dispatcher, and on the third shift, he had some available hours to assist with some of the duties. Part of what he did, and what I intend him to do, is work more as an outreach, more out into the communities. A lot of what we have to do is educate and prepare the people, so I intended to use him to strengthen the website, to help with some of the technology end of it, the Twitter account, the Facebook account, to go out into the public, along with myself, when available, to go into a lot of the senior center homes, even connect with the URI students to be able to help prepare them in the event of storm-related, specifically, incidents. So I was hoping to be able to continue with that. The funding is going to be under grant money up to a certain amount. So even in the contract, it stipulates if the funds aren't there, then I can't use him for these services. So those are some of the things.
So if we don't have to pay him any money, you're saying we would never be in that position where we'd be paying him consulting fees?
If we didn't have the funds available to pay him?
Yeah. If those grants were not
they
there,
run out.
would we have to pick up the slack?
Yes, but would we be able to do as adequate a job? I don't feel currently the way it's structured right now that we could, because as Ms. Nolan has stated, it's become quite an involved position. There are many towns who have just a separate EMA director, and that's what they do. They're not connected to police or fire because it's become quite an involved position.
So let me just understand. So when the grant runs out, then we incur the cost of it, correct? Why can't we just run it until we use the grant money and then stop? Then it wouldn't cost the town anything. It would be all on a grant, right?
Well, it would be constant self-supporting. Each year, we're awarded grant monies based upon different activities that we do. It's not just through Rhode Island EMA grants that trickle down to us, but it's also through our Meds Pods program that Chris is actually involved with at the state level. So as long as we keep up with those deliverables, those activities, grant money will be accessible to us. And there are also grants that are available to us that, quite frankly, I don't have enough time to go after and pursue some of those. That Chris was also going to be able to help me in coordinating those grant activities that we could go and secure some of those funds.
I'm still not understanding. I don't think so.
I just don't see a need for it, Chief. I really don't. You've got a lot of qualified people that could pick up that slack, and I don't see it. Maybe I'm missing something here.
There are a lot
but I don't see
we
it.
do have a lot of qualified people, but there are a lot of qualified people who are doing other duties and wearing a lot of other hats, and it becomes increasingly difficult. I just want to make this run more efficiently, bring in people who have more expertise than myself or even some others that are currently in place, and use the available funds. There's no tax dollars that are going to be used for this, but use those available funds and grants to help support that and augment that.
So I'd like to make a motion to table it. I don't want to take too much time on it, but I don't really understand. Maybe the grant money that you allocate, that they get for this position, when that's done, then it has to be paid out of the department? Is that, I don't understand. I'm just trying to make sense of it. It's grants, so it doesn't cost us any money, but what happens when the grant money is gone? Then we pick up the $25 an hour?
No, we wouldn't be paying anything, because the way the contract is written, he would not be paid if there aren't any funds in the
Okay, that's what I was trying.
Yeah, it's subject to availability
Okay.
of state and federal
Yeah,
funds.
okay, now I get it. I was trying to figure out if it was a grant, why we were paying for it, so I'm good, thank you.
Any other questions? Or anything I could else add to clarify?
No, we got it.
Oh.
There's a couple of people that had some questions out there.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Alba?
I was always under the impression that the landlords would pick up the tab to tie it in so they can get rid of their cesspools. I think that's what happened to us on Bellevue Avenue. we had to pay to tie in. Luckily that Fiore, who had lots of houses there, had them come down, and we tied in, and so it was to our benefit to tie in anyways.
We're on number 20. EMA, is that what you're talking about?
But you're talking about what was it? The $20,000 for Sherman? Are we on 19 or
No,
what?
we're on 20 now.
We're on 20 now. Well, sorry.
It's okay. We forgive you.
Mr. Brady?
During all this conversation, I've not heard the cost. What is the amount of the grant? And then when do we have, much do we have to pay? Who pays for his health insurance? Who pays for his pension plan?
He's already a town employee. That's not part of the
He's an independent
contract.
contractor. He has an independent contractor contract. He does not get health insurance, and he works a few hours a week. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how many, Chief. 5.
Okay.
Mr. McSally says
you answered
5.
my question. Thank you.
No benefits.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
So are we going to table this, or
No,
what?
I mean,
You're comfortable?
I'm comfortable. I got it.
I think right now we're in a little bit of a panic with the budget, and we're all worried about that. And there's certain things that, as a town, we have continuing. We've gone through 2 budget seasons. Last budget season, we did cut back. We were proposed last year with a 3.8 increase. It went down to 2.2. We did cut a lot of things, and the budget's a plan, and we go forward. But we can sometimes panic in a meeting, for example, on some of the agenda items, that is something that we don't need as a town. On this particular item, my instinct is to table it just because it is an independent contractor arrangement. I'd like to look at it a little more. That's just my instinct.
Can I say one thing?
Sure. I just want to finish my thoughts.
It's a grant.
I got it. But I want to make sure, I want to review the contract again, went over the contract one time, understand it's an independent contractor situation. I think we need to be careful that we don't say we just eviscerate everything in our ability to serve the town on some of these items. By the same token, as I said, we've gone through 2 budget seasons. We're trying to put together a plan that works for this cycle, right? We're trying our best. And we know we're very sensitive to the need for us to have as low of a tax increase as possible. We want to do that. So on this, I don't think it has an effect so much on that. I think this is a different kind of scenario, but I think the concerns, that way we can communicate effectively to people if they're concerned. Are we creating some new position? I don't think we're doing that. My reading of the contract, that's not going on. But that would be my instinct to table something like this. But that's just my thought.
I'm good. I mean, it is a grant. There are no benefits. When the money runs out, then it runs out.
Can I just point out one paragraph in the contract, because I did modify it with knowing there would be some concerns over funding. If you look at paragraph 6, I'll just take 1 minute to read you that. It says, subject to the availability of state and/or federal grants, contractor shall be compensated for services at the rate of $25 per hour for not more than 5 hours per week. Again, subject to grant funds being available, payment shall be made in monthly installments that shall be due on or before the first day of each month. In the event that grant funds are not available, the town shall not be obligated to make any payments to contractor. So I tried as best we can to tie it solely to grant funds existing, and if it doesn't exist, he doesn't get paid. But that's up to you as to whether you want further language, you want to think about it some more. But I just want to point out that paragraph that's in the contract.
So that sentence, in the event that grant funds are not available, the town shall not be obligated to make any payments to contractor. That way everyone at home knows what we're doing. It's clear. That does satisfy me. Thank you, Mark, so I don't have to dig up all my old packets. Thank you.
Money's not my concern. It's whether we even need the position there in the first place. It just doesn't make any sense to me when you have the fire chief and the police chief involved with this. They should be involved with it, with everything. And I don't see what the contribution can be there, and I just don't understand the position. Maybe I don't know enough about it, I guess.
Looks like there's no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? 3-1, motion carries. Number 21, number 22, I think, after reading them again, are somewhat premature. We discussed those in the budget meetings last Monday and Tuesday. I don't think we made any decisions on those issues. It's
Good
fair to
point.
say we should table those for the time being to see what we come up with after we speak to Ms. Kenyon on the 28th.
So move.
Second.
So table to the 28th, I'm sorry, till after the 28th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's
I have a question for the manager, though. How did these two items get on the agenda for tonight?
We've had them in development, the contract with our solicitor, and when I talked to you at the last budget hearing, I believe their contracts have expired. That's why they're on now. Let me, if we're going to put them off for a meeting, I can make certain of that, and I can, but I believe that's,
That's the reason why they're on the agenda now?
I don't know the answer to that question. I was asked to review them, and I said they were okay, but I didn't get into the funding or what the status was. I know they both have done independent inspections for the building official's office over the number of years, but the term, I'd have to go back and look at their existing contracts. I didn't focus on that, Doug.
Okay.
Okay. Motion.
Just continue it for a
So
couple
it's
meetings.
continued to after the budget is approved.
Correct. Or at least till after.
That was our motion.
Good. Are we all set?
All set on that? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. Number 23, Ms. Spinato.
A motion to approve and extend the paddle sports business concession at Middlebridge to Narrow River Kayaks until February 28th, 2015 for the Park and Rec Department with the same terms, conditions, and pricing within the lease that ended December 31st, 2013, and approve the rental of cottage 94A to be, I can't see it, utilized as office space for the paddle sports business concession. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second, anybody?
You can
Second.
yeah.
I just seconded.
Yeah, that's fine. You are permitted to do so, Susan.
Okay. Discussion?
Just by way of background, I'll give you a quick overview. We have discussed this in executive session. The decision came down in the town's favor. What the plan was that we're going to rebid the package as stated when the decision was made last October. Unfortunately, we have an appeal pending, and the question comes, when will that be decided? Probably not before this summer season commences, and the town wishes to have an operation at that site, keep it in continuation. For that purpose, the recommendation I made was that you could extend the existing lease for a year, keep it the status quo till we have the appeal decided, then go back out to bid at that point in time once we hopefully are done with the appeal. And depending on which way it's decided, will dictate how we react for next season.
Right, so as Mark said, at the Superior Court level, this town was successful in the lawsuit. However, there's an appeal to the Supreme Court, but we want to make sure that we open this season, so we're basically leaving the existing contract so that we are within a conservative kind of legal framework. We're not opening up a brand-new lease, so we want to make sure that we open this because the residents we know like the paddle concession. We know that people like the use of kayaks on the river, but again, we're not going to get a final decision from the Supreme Court for some time. So at least for probably several months. So that's where we are with that. The rental of 94A we want to include in this as well.
So 94A is the building that's on that side of the kayaks, correct? That small little building off? Yes.
That will be a separate agreement then, right, Steve?
No.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will be.
Oh,
Okay, so we're just authorizing the discussion of that.
Right, yeah, this is, the extension is a status quo.
Right,
basically.
that's important, right, okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Oh,
There was discussion, no.
any
okay.
discussion out there?
I thought I saw you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
2-1, motion passes.
Number 24, a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance in amendment of Chapter 10, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Buildings and Building Regulations.
I'll move that motion.
Second. Quick question. This is these are the things you talked about, Scott, at the last meeting, is that correct? And this is the second, what is this, the second reading of the ordinance? Okay.
First, isn't it?
No, first reading, I'm sorry, and then second reading will be at the next meeting?
Yeah, this is the first reading.
Okay, so the discussion, we've had the discussion, first reading, second. Just want to make sure there's no, got it. So we've already approved this at our last meeting.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 25, a motion to adopt a resolution amending the ordinance of Chapter 26, Article 1 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Fire Prevention and Protection.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 26, a motion to adopt a proclamation recognizing Arbor Day 2014 and the importance of trees in Narragansett.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
And this is so nice, this Arbor Day. It's nice. Dave is very nice.
Oh, Dave did.
Yeah, I think it's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 27, a motion to award the bid for the Weeda Street Pump Station Roof Replacement Project to the only qualified bidder, Martone Service Company, Inc., in the amount of $24,117.
Move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Looks like there's no comments on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 28, a motion to award the bid for the purchase of a digital logging recorder rebid for the Department of Public Safety to the lowest bidder, Business Electronics, Inc., in the amount of $29,965, including service agreements for years 2 through 5.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question for the manager. That was before us before where the bid was too high? Is that what happened there?
As it says, there was something missing in the first bid. The original bid was solicited and then rejected by the Town Council January 6, 2014. This revised bid was solicited for the purchase and installation of the equipment as well as a service agreement for 4 additional years, so the equipment will be covered for 5 total years. The equipment cost us $22,765. Years 2 through 5 service agreements cost $1,800 a year. Total cost $29,965. We put the bid out, solicited and posted. 4 vendors, 4 responded. You have the results. That's all the information I have.
Is this something we absolutely have to have?
Yes. Chief Hoxie, I believe this is your recording of your dispatch. Am I correct?
This is the recording of both the radio and telephones. So in 2005, when we put the 800 megahertz in, we just recently upgraded that. This council approved that dispatch upgrade. That changed us to a more digital system. The old analog recording system doesn't record that. We also upgraded the phone system. We're now going with Carousel, which is a digital voice over IP phone system. The old analog recorder doesn't record that. This was anticipated. It was budgeted through the last budget cycle under the capital project, money appropriated through the last tax increase. So that's why we're here before you now. Now's the time to install that.
Thank you, Chief.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 29, a motion to award the bid for the basketball court lighting project at Leroy Thompson Playground to the lowest bidder, E.W. Audette & Sons, Inc., in the amount of $41,000.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Looks like this is one of the issues where the light pole got knocked down during one of the storms. They've been using temporary lights every summer.
We've actually been renting temporary lights. Yep.
And by chance, do we know how much those temporary lights cost, just for reference purposes?
I don't, but I am sure that our Director of Parks and Recreation, Mr. Wright, does know, and he's on his way up.
Oh, he's got it folded across.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. We rented from the state contract at $1,000 for the summer of last year. Gasoline lights that we used to have to use with a portable gas tank.
I'm sorry, what was the
Can't
cost of
repair
those?
this pole at all?
Sorry.
No?
That happened in January 2012.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Mr. Wojciechowski?
$41,000 for lights, $41,000. I was hoping that we would probably go out there and look for someone to sponsor that, maybe put up a sign somewhere saying, you know, get some fundraising going to do this kind of thing. Can we
Stanley,
push this?
Stanley,
Let's
come on, take this. Take a look at this.
Push this down. We're gonna push
Take
this
a,
down.
take a look at this, really. Do you want your ball fields to look like that? Really? Even you couldn't fix that.
That's only a pole.
I know, it's a whole lighting system. I know.
I'd like to go out and look for funds out in the community to augment the $41,000. And just pushing this another year, push it down another year, you're pushing some of the pension things here. So let's push, this is one of those things, we can push a year while we look for private funds to assist us. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brady?
Just a quick question. Did I hear this is a repair of something that broke a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Why wasn't it in the Recreation Department's budget? Or was it?
It is. It is part of the, it's part of the budgeted
It is.
items, one of the budget
It is.
items for this year.
So there was an amount budgeted?
Yes. Mr. Alba?
I believe you said this was the result of the hurricane?
Storm in 2012.
Well, isn't that taken care of, hurricane damage?
Not this project yet.
Why? What makes us doing different?
They had rented lights for the past 2 years.
Yeah, but the hurricane is what damaged it.
So they wheeled in lights for the past 2 summers to light the courts during the summer night games.
I don't know.
Mrs. Wojciechowski?
Was this an accident or was it a storm?
Storm,
Well, did insurance pay anything?
$3,000. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 30, a motion to award the bid for the 2014 statistical reappraisal services to the second lowest bidder, Vision Governmental Solutions, in the amount of $171,000, and to authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
What's the relationship between this and what's in the capital budget for this item? So, but the funding is split between the two? What's this line about? Because that's what I thought too, and so it's 175 in the capital. I just want to make sure. Do you know what line I'm referring
Yes,
to?
I know exactly
Okay.
which line you're referring to. In the capital right now, or when the budget was proposed, it's 175. I did not have the final bid, so it will go to 171.
What about the?
Funding is not necessary until next year.
But what about, what, the 60% of the funding will be provided by the state versus
Correct, and that is
40?
also in the capital as
Okay.
a revenue source.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
I remember the old days, they wouldn't have a reappraisal for like 10 years, I think it was, and then there was some kind of state law, they have to do it every 3 years. Yeah, I was hoping that we could appeal to someone to postpone. You know, the reason I think they did this is because values are going up, so they want to make sure they had higher values for higher taxes. You can see what the state was doing to us, right? They wanted more money. Now, at this particular time, I'm not so sure values are going up, so there's no incentive for really to do this so quickly. So I think it kicked this can down the road. In other words, yeah, can we go another year or two without this statistical appraisal? Is this by law we have to do this? Yeah. Can we go and request to be to hold this over because our crisis situation that we have a critical situation with finance? Can't we use that as an excuse to postpone this item?
No, it's a law. It's a state law.
All right, thank you.
Good try, those two.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. That concludes the new business for tonight. The next item is the executive session. A motion to retire to executive session of the Town Council at the end of the April 21st, 2014 Town Council meeting in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 42464 to discuss non-union personnel in accordance with General Law 42465A1 and discussion on collective bargaining regarding Rhode Island Council 94 Local 1179 ASME AFL-CIO and Public Service Employees Local 1033 in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 42465A2 and discussion on acquisition or lease of real property in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 42465A5 and to appoint Mark A. McSally, Solicitor Clerk Pro Tem. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan, aye. Ms. Bonanno?
Aye.
Mr. Mannix?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone have a good night.